So basically, I'm just saying that when you start traversing the energetic realms and the higher dimensions or these different dimensions, you actually see that it's not all black and white, or like how we've been taught, or everybody you think the whole concept around good and evil and bad and right and wrong and all of that. It's not what you think it is. It's what I'm going to say. But anyway, so to touch back on what I was saying yesterday about an experience that I had when my body was being calibrated, and a lot of higher dimensional beings had came into my space and was vibrating in my space, and many had came to witness me. Um, my spiritual team is allowing me to elaborate a little further on the process of what happened. Okay, so I went through a process where I went through an extreme, like psychic warfare attack type of initiation process. I didn't understand what was going on at the time, but of course now, like I said, everything comes full circle. When I went through the process, it was meant to strengthen me mentally. Everything that I've been through since I've been hit the ground running in this realm, being able to see and being clairvoyant and being able to access all of these energetic realms, all of it has been to strengthen me, like mentally, physically, my resolve to create a certain fearlessness in me. I went through countless things, and I've had psychic warfare before. I had psychic attacks before, but I had never had anything like that I had experienced at that time when I went through that process, and it was very jarring to my system. And also too, sometimes things are more intense than what it seems when you're holding a lot of fear. And I was still learning about something at that time. That So anyway, when I went through that process, I had almost like had my psyche taken over, by some entities that were trying to infiltrate me and basically harness my my light, my higher self, or something like that. And I fought tooth and nail because that's what I know to do. I went through the process of that, but at the time, my spiritual team and my higher self kind of abandoned me through the process and allowed me to go through that. Anyway, some series of things happened later on. I came out of that process. Eventually, my higher self had came forth and kind of quite taken over and calibrated me. And anyway, I came out of that process. And then there were things that I had found out. That's when I started learning more about the dimensional realms and the infiltration that occurs within the higher dimensional realms as well, many of them. That's when I started learning about the different higher interdimensional beings. Even though I had experienced a lot of things most of my life going through the process, I never, everything has to come full circle to make sense. So it wasn't until like I think last year where everything like came full circle for me, like from everything that I had been through and I had gone through everything that I traversed, and it was all purposeful. My higher self set it up like that, and at the time I had like my spiritual team with me, and I learned some things that was like unpleasant, that I learned about the process. And even when it comes to your spiritual team or those that are supposed to protect you and things of that nature, but also too I learned about myself more. I learned about my ranking, um, within the spiritual realm and things of that nature. And this hasn't been my first rodeo. Like I said, for most chosen ones, this is not our first rodeo. This is what we do, and we're very good at what we do. Of why many of us take these particular tasks that are um, the hardest tasks to do. But I learned some things about my spiritual team, or how things operate in the spiritual realm, and I realized that many of my spiritual team was kind of dropping the ball on protecting me, or just certain things. Like, I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but let's just say that because for the sake of the video, they was dropping the ball on many things, and I was able to be privy to this information. I was able to see this. And then I had some particular beings that had been with me through all my life, and I learned about myself, and I learned that okay, I always excel faster than what is sometimes expected of me. So sometimes you have a spiritual team, and many times you are going to cross these particular thresholds in life where when you are a chosen one, there are threshold moments within your life. What I mean by that is things that might have like a huge impact on you, where it's like it's going to change or alter you, and your higher self has everything mapped out. Because, like I said, your higher self is the one that kind of governs and runs your spiritual team to an extent. But your higher self is like, your higher self is in control of everything. Um, and there are these threshold points, let's say, within your map, within your path, as you're going forward and moving in life. And your spiritual team or certain ones are supposed to be there at these certain junctures in order to um, assist or help you navigate. So I had learned about myself through some of my spiritual team that I always move fast, or I excel past these thresholds fast. Anyway, they started dropping the ball at some point, because then I found out a lot as well about, like I said, this isn't my first rodeo, and this is what I do when I always excel fast. And so these spiritual team members, many of them, they've been with you for like lifetimes, and many, like, they've been with you through the processes, not just in this lifetime. So they know you. So many of them grow very comfortable in the sense that they don't they drop the ball sometimes in doing certain things, because there's the narrative that you got it, she got it, because she always, or this individual, this being always, you know gets it done. And so it's like, it's just, so anyway, I found that out. Then I found out, like, there's something that goes on with like emotion. Many of these beings that exist on these higher levels, even some of your spiritual team, they are tasked with guiding you or doing certain things with you, but it doesn't mean they always with you all the time. They may be else, because we're all multidimensional beings. They may be elsewhere, but they're watching you or they're observing you at certain moments and times and things like that. But what I'm saying is, many of them cannot handle the density of the earth realm. They cannot handle dense emotions. They cannot handle the density of the earth realm. So if in fact you are going through something, like, they don't want to stay in the earth realm energy for too long. So that's another way that they drop the ball too sometimes, because they'll be governing you or watching over you from elsewhere, but they're not always, because there's tactics in the matrix that sometimes attempts to bypass what your spiritual team can see or be privy to. So if they're not there with you, it's a lot. I know it sounds it is a lot, and it really is like that. Anyway, that's another way they drop the ball, because they can't handle the dense emotions and stuff. Now, this isn't all beings that are in higher form. Some higher form beings, they are willing to go through the trenches and be in the earth realm dense energy with you. But there are many that, like, just like how you would think, like, it's in the earth realm where it's beings that are pampered or spoiled, or it's like that in the high realms is too. In the high realms too. Just like how you would think, like, there would be no jealousy or envy or things like that in the high realms. It's stuff that goes on in the high. That's why I say it's not all black and white. And then when I became privy to this information and I was able to see this, it was jarring for me. It was a bit upsetting as well, because I'm like, how could these particular energies infiltrate the higher realms? Anyway, I'm gonna have to come back with one more video, and I'm gonna land. Okay.